Hello and welcome to the CCC News podcast. I'm Robin and I'm here with Tom.
Yeah, great to see you again, Robin.
Thanks, great to see you again too. It's been ages. Yeah, we filmed another podcast this morning, so we're
A
little rummy, very practiced, and so we're going to go quite fast for you right now.
Yeah,
So it's election season.
Yes, of course.
Elections are coming up. What date is the election again?
May 20th. Special election in Wasco County.
In Wasco County. Today is Friday, May 9th, 2025.
11 days.
11 days.
Make your choices.
Yeah, we're recording at 12:18 p.m. But if anything changes after this podcast, which it may well do as elections happen and move forwards.
Yeah.
And Tom's been working really hard on the candidate profile and the Meet the Candidates article that we put out almost every election cycle.
Yes.
And it's a real process.
It really is. Yeah. We started in on this, unfortunately a little bit later than usual, but we got going on it last week, and my wife Peggy and I stayed here, I think, until like 9 o'clock one night, getting all the emails put together. So it's kind of a wild process, but this year we used some questions that we sent to every candidate, which in a slower election, maybe not such a big deal. We had 64 candidates in this special election.
Okay.
And that includes, folks running for positions on water boards and fire district boards, school districts, and it was voluminous. It was just a lot to put together. Mm-hmm. And so we started out with an email asking folks to respond to some kind of basic questions. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What are the three main concerns, facing the district, and, how would you address them? Those kinds of things. And so we got it started that way. And we got, as in anything, you get some quick responses, folks who get things done right away. And then, the others kind of trickle in thereafter. Yeah. But we just finally got it put out yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It was quite an effort. We did celebrate a bit last night getting that finished, because we put, I would say, 3 solid days into that in gathering that information, putting it together and getting it out there so that voters, have a chance to really take a look at their candidates and know who they are. And even when they're unopposed, we think that's really, really important because these folks are doing the yeoman's work out there in making sure that our communities have clean drinking water, properly equipped fire departments, school boards that have thoughtful, policy-minded folks who can help elevate, the education of our children, which eventually will be running our communities. So, these things are just hugely important. I can't put enough emphasis on it, and that's kind of why we go to such great lengths here at CCC News to try and gather as much information as we can.
It's quite an investment. We've got 3 days full time of our most experienced and highest paid employee. It's kind of a joke because we haven't always got paid doing this work, but 3 days of the most experienced employee, as a business space, is a really expensive investment for any small organization or operation like this, right?
Yeah, it is. You're right, and we do have to forego some other stories while we're focusing on this. We do try to at least cover the breaking news to some degree, but there's some other things kind of sitting in the wing. There's a subdivision development going on over by Lone Pine at the Dallas Bridge that I want to get to, but we'll get to it. We'll get it all done. And that's just kind of our modus operandi, right?
That's cool. Yeah. So not to go too deep, obviously people should read, the Meet the Candidates forum. I mean, the Meet the Candidates piece that you've done. Yeah. I mean, so you asked everybody the same question for starters. You reached out to everybody.
That's correct.
Right. If they had an email, you did email, and if they had a phone, you did phone, right? Or text or something like that.
And so there was some differences. So in the candidate filings that are with the Wasco County clerk, they could either contain an email, a phone number, or both. Sometimes they didn't have either, and sometimes they had just a phone number. So in those events, I would call folks and say, yeah, could you give me your email, and I'll send you over these questions, and you can get them back to me, and that kind of thing. And there was quite a bit of that. There's just that's part of the process, and reaching out. But while you're doing that, you learn some really interesting things about some of the candidates. Like one gentleman was having some real health issues, with his wife, while he's still putting in all these community hours up in the Wamut community. So, you kind of get to know that the kind of the heart and soul of some of these folks who were, really kind of the salt of the earth kind of people who are willing to give even when they are under difficult circumstances.
Yeah, it's civic duty, right? Like our democracy and our structures that keep everything going depend on this process of representation.
Correct.
Right? And it's so important for the folks to be in that position so we can have this representation, right? And so it isn't just one person at the top making decisions for all of us, right? With their one limited perspective, because all of us are limited by our own perspective, right?
Correct.
And so, to have functioning cities and functioning communities, we have to have many perspectives be represented at the table, and there's still flaws in that, right?
Certainly,
yeah, for sure.
But the more voices that are involved, the more ideas that can be brought forward. Like in business or anything, it's never a direct line. It's a zig and a zag, and you find out, oh, this makes sense. This works better this way, and having good community involvement gets to the best ideas faster.
Yeah,
because you can't vet an idea without somebody saying the opposite to it.
Yeah.
You just can't do it. Like, you find out what the truth is that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you reach out to these folks, and then with the same questions for everyone, right?
Yes.
And so you're not asking people difficult questions. Sometimes the questions change based on the position, but all of the people in that position get the same question. Or if you're going for school board, everybody gets the school board questions, right?
Correct.
And then you get those answers back, and it's impossible to kind of fully verify everything everybody says, but there's a kind of a filtering process, right? When you get those answers. Tell us about that process for you.
Yeah. Well, certainly. So once we receive the answers and we're putting them together, we're going through them. And if there's something that's a real outlier, an idea or an opinion, like we can cross check that and then get back to the candidate. Now, I didn't have much of that in this election. I had zero actually, but yeah, I mean, that is part of our process. If there's something that's like a pretty major idea, like all of the third graders didn't receive education, or didn't receive any spelling this year.
Which is totally hypothetical in the scenario.
But, right? Like I would definitely check that out.
Yeah,
I just wouldn't allow that to run like that.
Yeah.
If in fact it's not true.
Yeah.
So, but we would go then back to the candidate and say, well, we have, information contrary to that, like maybe you meant something else, or
No, well, what I mean is that
Yes.
in other contexts of us receiving this information, being a voters pamphlet, right?
Yes.
Or in a candidates forum, there isn't really this process of like secondary process of it's not quite fact checking, but like validation that the information is important and relevant to this conversation, and
That's right.
and comes from somewhere,
Real people.
Yeah, real people,
Yes.
because we have, we really value honesty and truth here,
Right.
at CCC News. We're not, we're not interested in people spouting off lies for
Right.
their own benefit again, right?
Under false names.
Under
or
false
something.
names and things like that,
We
right?
spend so much time on that. Like,
Yeah.
verifying it.
And in the past we've uncovered that DAs running without a state bar license. We've uncovered a whole range of kind of things that we weren't expecting to come up, right? We weren't expecting those to come up. And so this process of validation, I think, is important for us to talk about because it is, people don't see that. You read the forum and read, the blurb a little bit, but, it's hard to also tell everybody, and we can't also verify all of those facts, but we can take them through that basic human filter of what's real there. So talking of candidate forum, there is going to be a little candidate forum happening. The Dalles Area Chamber of Commerce, in collaboration with Wasco County Farm Bureau and the Mid-Columbia Senior Center, will host a 2025 Special District Election Campaign Forum on Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. It's going to be at the Mid-Columbia Senior Center, which is located at 1112 West 9th, the Dalles.
Okay.
And so folks can go there and they can meet and greet. The doors open at 5:30 with candidates followed by the and the forum's going to start about 6.
Who's going to be there? Like which candidates and what districts?
Good question. So we've got North Wasco County School District positions.
Okay.
And we've got the Zone 4 position, which is between David Pauline and John Nelson. Zone 5, which we've got Kevin Kramer versus Shannon Wilkinson. I'm saying versus. I mean, they are against each other in this, but we're all working together toward the same goal, especially in schools. And Zone 7, we've got Steve Lawrence, a former mayor of the Dalles, and Katie Kelly.
Okay.
For the Mid-Columbia Fire and Rescue, we have position 2, which is Corey Case and Mike Erland. Position 4, which is David Jacobs and Chris Shano.
The candidates for that position. Okay.
Yeah, so those are the candidates for that position.
Yeah.
And the candidates that are signed up to be there at the candidate forum. There may well be more, I'm sure. Still a few days, about 5 days left to there. Things move fast in election.
They do. Yeah. And another, I think, a very healthy thing that I saw in this year's election is that at all the school districts, there were a lot of contested positions. And that means there's a lot of care out there. There's a lot of people who are interested in giving of their time and making things better. And that was the Duffer School District as well as the South Wasco County School District. So healthy competition and the sharing of ideas going on, which is super important.
Yeah, really important. So as we go into this last few days of the election, what advice would you give folks for getting really valuable and relevant information to make a really good vote this round?
So there's a couple of different go-tos. You can read our Meet the Candidates, obviously story that we've got, and that's at cccnews.com. The candidate filings, if you just want to look at the raw information, and people kind of just talk about what their work is and where they live, that kind of thing. Those are all at the Wasco County Clerk. So if you just type in Wasco County Clerk in a Google search, it'll come up. And then there's on the right-hand page, you hit the special election, and it will list out each candidate. You click on it, and it shows you their filing.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and then, forums like this, anywhere you can gain additional information, about who the candidates are and, and how they jibe with what you believe it would make a good board member, then go for it. Find it and get it. Yeah.
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 And there are people obviously running in this that have, a lot of history here in the Dalles, and there are some people that are new, so there's different levels of information on each person, right? And that is available. So do look around as well. Do ask your neighbors and your friends and your colleagues about these how these names come up, and listen to their experiences. Because if you don't, it's usually second or third connections if there isn't a first in the Dalles. Almost always. Yeah. And keep on the lookout for breaking news and news between now and May 20 and beyond, as we keep reporting on various things.
I'm sure the clerk will be sending out return reports, like percentages of returns and turnout and that kind of thing. So we'll stay ahead of that. And then, and if there's any new wrinkles, before the final election date, we'll try and get those reported as well.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Tom. Really appreciate your hard work on this really big piece of work, and really appreciate you doing it for everyone, and really hope everyone enjoys the writing that you've put down.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. Thanks for asking.
Thanks.
All right.
Hey, Robin, I just did a story this morning about my daughter who's hiking the PCT.
That's special. I love that.
Yeah, and she's a 2019 grad of the Dallas High School, and she's doing this kind of awesome thing, and I'm so proud of her. But also at the same time, I really enjoy bringing local news to folks and bringing relevant information.
That's really evident from your work, Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the internet is full of misinformation or poor quality information or AI produced information. And here we have something different at CCC News, right? We're local people generating local content with journalistic integrity and trying to build trust with our audience because that's what they deserve, right?
Right. And so how does that benefit our advertisers?
Well, being seen next to content that's really relevant, that's really trustworthy and really credible adds credibility to our advertisers because our viewers and readers see those advertisers next to that really honest, credible local information, and it really builds that brand into a basis of trust and really helps businesses reach people from that basis of trust.
Yeah, awesome. And boy, and to all those folks who are supporting us, it makes a huge difference in us being able to get this job done of keeping folks informed of what's happening in local government, entertainment, all sorts of venues throughout the Gorge.
Yeah, we have really high integrity in our journalistic standards, and so you're always verifying all this information constantly with multiple sources of people. We don't try not to do one source stories here, or just take a piece of information from the government and run with it. We really try and drill down and get to the meat and potatoes of what's there.
That's the joy. Yeah.
That's great. Well, if you want to keep reading, go to cccnews.com. And if you want to support us, look for our supporters tab there. And really grateful for any support that people can make. Yeah. The more support we get from our local audience, the less we have to rely on advertisers and the more journalistic freedom we get.
Yeah, absolutely. And those interested in advertising can always reach out to me at tom@cccnews.com or call me at 541-980-2756.
Great. Thanks, Tom.
You bet.